Amen. That's a new intro. Only the Cypher group has seen that intro. This is the first time you guys have seen it. I've lost track. We've got several new intros. I'm deep in Archaix Academy this month because I've already uploaded 54 videos to YouTube, and you have many other videos. I'm still doing my live podcast. I'm not slowing down my own itinerary that I do every week for YouTube. About 3 videos a week is my average for YouTube. I've increased the frequency of Cypher videos because I'm getting a lot more free time now. The Archaix team is taking on more responsibilities, and it frees me up to do these things with the community. So my Cypher videos are like 3.5 hours long, and I'm doing 1 to 2 a week. So, a matter of fact, we just did one yesterday, and we're going to do one tomorrow. Toward the end of this video, because it's a data point that cannot be ignored, you're going to get a 15-minute window into what exactly we're doing in Cypher. And yeah, this is the only time we're really going to show this on YouTube. But what we're doing is amazing, but it wouldn't even be possible if we were living in the world that our controllers are trying to convince us that we live in. You'll understand later in this video. This world here, it operates on 2 principles. I'm going to share those 2 principles with you, and we're going to go through the data like a freight train today. By the end of this video, if you're awake, you're going to realize you live in an artificial mathematical construct. If you're still clinging on to the Materium, that's going to be noticeable too, and it's okay. You're just not there yet. Allie has an awesome announcement. This is something she did on her own. I think Allie's been posting, and I haven't seen one. I need to. So, here it is. Allie Wilkin. She is a admin with Jasmine in the Archaix Underground, and she has created a new workbook in there. If you want to gift somebody a 30-day free trial to Archaix Underground, it's $5.52 a month, but you've got so much to do in there. And I still have a whole bunch of free stuff scheduled to upload to Archaix Underground. As soon as I'm done, this month I'll be done with Archaix Academy. And then Archaix Underground, I'm going to load. It's already loaded, but I'm going to load it with a lot more stuff. So it's I know several of you have sent me emails. I saw your email, Jahara. I got emails from other people. I'm just right now, everything's just, I can only get to one thing at a time. There's just one of me, and I have multiple people on multiple projects. So bear with me. I'll get to everything. Let's see. Yeah, today's freight train. Leslie Pickett. It's freight train day. But yeah, that is an awesome idea. It wasn't my idea. They came up with that on their own. It's fantastic. So if you want to gift somebody 30 days just so they can see what's really going on, this is a community. Archaix Underground is a community for free thinkers. We are editing out all the BS, all the dungeon programming, all the filters that information goes through to get to us in order for us to believe this false version of history, false version of the world, this political BS, everything that's happening. Yeah, we eliminate that BS. Archaix Underground's where you get the raw material, and there's so many people participating in Errant's personals and all the different types of chat and all the different types of corridors and rooms you can explore. There is so much information and data. Hobbies. I mean, we even go into pets. We even have whole chat rooms about where you can post your images and video clips about your own personal pets and hobbies and arts and crafts and movies that have real deep drops. We've got spaces for cinema and intriguing books, and there are thousands of PDF downloads. Any old books or old occult and mystical material that you're interested in looking for, you have lifetimes worth of reading that you can get from there. Also, if you like listening to Archaix videos, just go check out the audio files. We have a massive amount of audio files, and I'm uploading them every month. Doomslayer. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are, man. But you would have to come into the Cypher group. We have app developers. We have coders. Yeah, Cypher is available for download on Mac. Yeah, it's designed for Mac and for Windows. But yeah, our Cypher group has a GitHub, and on GitHub, that's where all the tweaking is done. And you know, we got guys that are far more sophisticated. They have taken this far beyond anything that I had imagined. Doing professional, corporate, business, personal, sports, crypto, every prediction you can imagine. So yeah, we've been attacked multiple times. There's been attempts to steal. You guys know the history. We've been slandered. Things are absolutely false. Even getting people to want refunds, which they were given and escorted to the door. And then when they found out that they were lied to, and actually believe some of the BS because of people that I fired in the past, and then made up stuff. And then they want back in the door. But I got zero tolerance. Just like YouTube, I have zero tolerance for BS. Yeah, man, I am responsible for a community, so I don't take things personal. I just edit negativity out of the field. And then it's the same thing with those people trying to get back in. They're not welcome back because you believed bullshit rumors about me by people I fired, and you wanted to be escorted to the door. You got your money back, got escorted to the door. Now that you're trying to get back in, I basically tell you F off. I don't care. Go with the decision that you made and live with it. But we're doing some amazing things in there, and you effed up, and you need to deal with that. Yeah, guys, you guys already know my history. I've paid for every sin and the sins of other people. You know what I mean? So I got no backup in me. Not even trying to hear it. But you're going to see that it's just a data point. So you're going to see that toward the end of this video. Also, I didn't put it in the description box, but at the end of this video, if you are interested in learning more about Cypher, it's just Archaix 138. My mods can put that in the chat. You can email Archaix 138, and that's at gmail.com. That's it. There used to be Cypher and Office material on my website through a special gate. All that's been eliminated. Got rid of all that. So this. Oh, Paul is love that man. You know he's recently on my channel. Love that man. He sent me the letters from prison. Here's my research from prison, all neatly organized. This is everything that I had sent him, and he emailed me and said, "Hey, don't hold your breath, but we may have more. We're still going through all." He's got a warehouse. We're still going through all the stuff, but this is the first box we found of material that you sent us during the 20-year period. So I'm gonna have a field day. I got to slow down. I got to get Academy done. I'm in overdrive every day when I'm not with my Cypher community and I'm not with my YouTube community. I'm in overdrive working on Archaix Academy files because it's the last big project I got to finish before we can steamroll ahead on some other things I've got cooking. But that is going to be probably an emotional experience for me, going through those letters, because there's so much research, so many things and projects, illustrations, hand drawings that I have done. Yeah. There's probably going to be new charts in there that I totally forgot I drew. So I haven't even gone through. I haven't even opened a single letter. I have to set a day aside for that, because, you know, contrary to popular opinion, I am an emotional guy, and I probably won't open those letters up on camera. So I'm going to share my screen just for this intro, because the world operates on two principles, and you're either one of the other. You can decide by the end of this video who you are. I'm going to explain to you what the world is doing when you interface with it, because it's only doing one of two things. So this is a different way of looking at all the information that Archaix has brought to the table on simulation theory, on the idea. Remember, 6 years ago, I made a promise. My very second video ever was called Simulation Theory. And it was only like 8 minutes long, but I made a promise. before I had released 1,030 videos, before I had started doing podcasts on as a guest on over 150 other channels and platforms, before anyone even ever knew who I was a published author, but I wasn't really selling a lot of books. My publisher knew me, but I wasn't very successful. I was working in the oil and gas industry after I got out of prison. But I did a simulation theory video and I made a promise. Many of you have put it in the comment section that I fulfilled my promise, and I really appreciate that. It means a lot. But in that video, I said that there are many great thinkers in the world today who have brought to our attention that we may be living in some type of artificial reality, something far more technologically advanced than we are capable of replicating today. And that simulation theory is a hot topic among theorists in academia. But I made a promise that I'm not going to bring information to the table that is rehashed from academia. I am going to bring novel, innovative, and eye-opening material from the historical record. And I'm going to show you that the study of chronology, calendrics, and chronotexture, that pulling things from the historical record can only a simulated context could answer for all the enigmas of the ancient world. This was my promise 6 years ago, that I was going to bring data to the table that no one had ever considered, and that this is going to be evidence that we are in a mathematical construct, because none of this could be true that we have unveiled unless we live in some type of artificial reality. It is a virtual reality. And for lack of appropriate frames of reference, we have to say simulation, we have to say virtual, we have to say augmented, we have to say artificial, when it may be none of those things. It's just not physical. And that maybe everything in the Materium that we perceive as physical is just an altered state of spirituality that's separate from us, and that we are moored to source, and that we have to wear a part of the very environment we're in. We call that an avatar. The avatar is made up of materials of the construct, and it's how we flow through the construct and experience the construct, and yet remain absolutely independent of it. So, 2 principles. I'm going to share my screen before we start this presentation so you can at least see what I'm talking about. So, the world operates on 2 principles. If an observer does not think about what he or she observes, then the world is very real, explainable place, and all so-called mysteries merely need any type of explanation in order for the individual to believe in this explainable world. This is the collective programming, with all the types of operable dungeon programming reinforcing that soul's desire for an explainable world. This is the value of establishment education for organizations like NASA and the publishing industry that reinforce this false paradigm. This is collective programming. We call it dungeon programming all the time, with all its feedback loops, self-perpetuating belief systems. This is one principle of our reality, of this construct. Here's the other. The other principle operable here involves the observer who pays attention and thinks. For this individual, the construct provides this independent soul an infinite amount of evidence that this is indeed a construct, a false reality, and these evidences promote a deeper thinking, an awareness that the environment is manufactured, and this soul awakens to the fact that such a scenario is actually liberating, self-empowering, and profoundly connected to the soul's identity. So, These are the two principles operating in our reality. The majorum of souls in this experience, all sharing this experience together, have all basically defaulted to the first principle. They see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And therefore, the construct gives them things to smell, things to see, things to hear, things to touch. A believable, organized reality that doesn't shake them to the core. It reciprocates with the exact amount of energy they expend in analyzing their environment. Their environment reciprocates and gives them the actual stimuli that perpetuates the idea that they're in a world that they've been told that they're in. There is no real investigation. But for the other souls, the minority, these souls also taste, hear, smell, touch, and see. But it's not enough. They also think about what they're seeing. They think about what they're smelling. They think about what they're touching. This is a whole new level of experiencing the environment. When the construct realizes there's cogitation behind the act of reciprocation, it begins to show that soul the cracks in the holosphere. And this is what Archaix has been about from the very beginning, showing you the reason why the Archaix data has been so mind-bending and so profound to so many people is simply because it's always been there and none of it was difficult to find. It's always been there. All we had to do was see with different eyes. All we had to do was think about the things that we have heard about the historical record. Think about the things that we see in the sky. Think about phenomena rather than just experience it. And by thinking about it, we are casting forth a spiritual energy, and the construct is reciprocating by feeding that spirit the truth. This is what this presentation's about. So there is no middle ground. A soul in this world either accepts that they are the victim of their environment and therefore residing in an environment over which they have no control, or they reject that and they realize that they are something more. And the more they process the phenomena of the environment, the more they realize that not only are they independent of it, but they even have the ability to control much of what they experience in that artificial environment. So I ask you at the beginning of this video, which soul are you? A slave to the programming who believes they are free, or a soul passing through the construct toward a greater destiny? I know my answer. But it was absolutely necessary to put souls into a very believable world. That's what this is. It is a very believable world. The diurnal system, day and night, is like the heartbeat of this reality. And it comes with its own phenomena. In the daytime, we have this great yellow, the burning disk. We have the sun. At nighttime, we have the moon. The moon does traverse the daytime sky, though, because it has a totally different momentum across the sky. And we find out the stars don't just move across the sky, they move in an arc. That arc shows that there is a polar center. And when they move across the sky, they're always equidistant every night from that polar center. And we get the idea from the motion of the sky that we must be on something that's spinning. It's a very believable world. This world has weather conditions that are equally believable. It has terrain of all different types to get us to believe that this world has a very interesting history. It has insects, all kinds of denizens from basically microscopic. The world of entomology is actually rife with organisms for which many we have not discovered yet. So the animal kingdoms as well. And the world is so believable that even when we investigate the terrain, we find the evidence of past programming, past programmed ecospheres that contain the residuum of biological organisms that were themselves living in previous versions of the construct. It is all very, very believable. And it allows for those that are inside the construct to formulate theories to basically guesstimate how it's possible that we have these life forms trapped in stone, how it's possible that we have these amazing diverse weather conditions from arid deserts to arid polar regions, both of them equally dry. One of them freezing and you cannot live in. The other one's so hot that you'll die very quickly. But they're both arid. Then we have whole areas that are absolutely humid. So much diverse weather. It's all very believable. Everything about the programming of the world is designed for you to believe in it. Even the predator versus prey ecosphere. It is very believable. So what makes it so believable is that it is order tempered with chaos. We see violence as chaotic. This whole predator versus prey phenomenon that's going on in the animal kingdom, in the insect kingdoms, and in the corporate America world, or basically the corporate world period all over the world. It's predator versus prey everywhere. But that's just an extension of order in chaos. It's what makes it so believable. If it was always perfectly ordered, it would not be believable to a free-thinking soul. A free-thinking soul, just like the Matrix movie, there was a good drop in the Matrix movie when Neo was talking to the architect. And the architect had told Neo, we built for you a golden age society. We made for you a perfect utopian environment, but you rejected the program. He's talking about as a race, human race. You rejected the programming. It wasn't believable. So we created a world of punishment, of order and chaos. We created a world where you could experience pain at multiple levels. In this you believed. You accepted the programming. Huge drop in the Matrix movie. To those who have fallen prey to the first principle, and they believe this world at face value, and they believe everything that the controllers of this world continue to educate them on. They believe the NASA version of our reality. They believe the junior high school, the collegiate material about ice ages and geological columns, and they believe. And they've invested their faith in things like carbon-14 dating and potassium argon. They actually think a tree grows one ring a year, and they invest their faith in dendrochronology. Don't even realize that in 4 or 5 years of a dry spell, a tree won't even grow a single ring. They believe that all these things that we have to accept to be true, to accept relative dating methods, such as potassium argon, is the absolute complete stability of the breakdown of those isotopes without any outside interference at all for them to be accurate. And these people still believe that this is true when it's all completely arbitrary. Those who have defaulted to the first principle reality are those who don't recognize disparate material, such as many physicists have documented the history of our world in gamma ray saturations. These unique saturations of gamma radiation that's found in our rocks and our soil materials that can be measured completely, absolutely collapses the whole entire paradigm of isotopic dating methods, the relative dating methods that rely on this radioactive decay model from parent elements to daughter elements. And even though they've all been disproven in many infallible ways, the collective still default to these as accurate dating systems because they believe in the geologic column. They believe in the uniformitarian, the evolutionary education they've been given. All they need is a model to believe in to perpetuate the world that they've already accepted to be true. Charles Fort said it best, Book of the Damned, 1919. It's almost as if there's an occult force that guides over the minds of men. And anytime something unusual or anomalous happens, these men just appear and provide just enough story to get people to believe in that narrative. Basically, to take them away from the idea that something very unusual and unique just happened that could have never happened in the world that you've accepted to be true. So the first principle souls are those of the collective. We all know them. The people that are glued to ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. They even think Fox is different, or they used to. I don't know about now. CNN, yeah, every bit of it mainstream. It's mainstream media because they're giving you the mainstream version of the world, and people buy into it, and they believe that. They believe they're scientists. They believe their testimonials. They believe all that. And then because so many souls have been waking up in the past 20, 30 years, that our controllers had to prepare for the citizen journalist. They had to prepare for the free-thinking individual, highly informed soul. So they created these alt media personalities who the collective that start to wake up fall into the dungeon programming of the alt media personalities, like Russell Brand, like so many others. He's just one person. There's so many others that they're gatekeeping, but people actually believe they're a part of the alt media, and they're literally telling them the truth when they're a part of the control apparatus. It's just a different level, and it's higher, it's more sophisticated because they're not worried about the collective. The collective of all have already pigeonholed themselves into a reality for which they cannot escape. But those who are waking up have other traps laid out for them, like Tucker Carlson, like Alex Jones, like so many others, like Joe Rogan now. Yeah, Joe Rogan may not personally be a gatekeeper, but isn't he? Because every guest he has is basically gatekeeping themselves. So we have alt media now taking completely over with all these massive accounts that are nothing but extensions of the collective programming. They are first principle souls. That's it. So we have these cracks in the holosphere that begin to wake up people. 9/11 was a crack in the holosphere for a lot of people. COVID-19 in 2020 and 2021 was another crack in the holosphere for a lot of people. But for those who are awake, they understand that the things they see in the sky are just that. It's a show. No longer believing in the speed of light. No longer believing in the Newtonian model of the universe. No longer believing in the Einsteinian psyop version of physics. These souls see with their eyes, and they think with their minds, and they understand that the sun could not possibly be 93 million miles away. It's not possible, because the entire historical record is rife with solaric anomalies that could have never happened if the sun was that far away. It must be a local phenomenon. The moon could not possibly be 239,000 miles away and cause the events that it's caused in the historical record. It's not possible. In Archaix, we have shown so many examples of solaric and lunar anomalies that could have only happened if these things that we see in the sky are local and not hundreds of thousands and millions of miles away. The awakened soul will realize that the sky is basically holographic. It is a stellosphere. It is not an accurate representation of the heavens. It's something else. Who knows? We could be looking at the inside of a toroidal field inside a vast superconstruction like a Dyson shell. We don't know because, like the Russians published widely, we've never been outside the atmosphere. They knew NASA was lying, never went to the moon, but then again, they were on board with the deception as well. So, to the awakening soul, we realize that the stellosphere is an illusion. It's covering something else. And we know that there are many mysteries that are inexplicable to first principle souls. But to awakened souls, we find that many constructual phenomena are actually governed by something that we perceive from the inside of the construct as orb activity. Missing ships, Bermuda Triangle and Devil's Triangle phenomena, human disappearances, 411 cases, electromagnetic storms, or strange auroras, the inside of typhoon and tornado funnels, all have been documented as having glowing orbs inside them. Glowing orbs have been seen inside of tsunamis. They appear in the air during intense earthquake activity. They have been seen going in and out of volcanoes just as they were erupting. We don't know what they are, but these orbs have been seen and associated to all this phenomena. One of the strangest phenomena in the world is agriglyphs, because they contain many geometrical and amazing, in 2 dimensions, they contain 3-dimensional data. And I've showed this on my channel by showing you what crop circles look like in 3 dimensions, as opposed to the 2 dimensions that we see them in the corn and barley fields, in the wheat fields. I've also shown you the videos that orbs are making those patterns. So, to a first principle soul, all they had to do was watch British Broadcasting Company, BBC, and watch 2 morons with tennis rackets on their boots walk in a circle with a string on a loop and do a crop circle. And they just mash the corn down, 2 guys walking in a circle with a rope on a stick in the middle, and then they called it a crop circle. But that method would have never made the agriglyphs that are being made since 1996. But those 2 guys were necessary. Those 2 guys gave the first principle souls the information they desperately wanted, so they didn't have to entertain all the other anomalies. It gave them their dismissive power. That's what first principle souls always want. They just want an explanation so they can shelve the phenomena and not have to deal with it. These souls are not ready to move on. They belong in this construct and will be recycled back until they awaken. These are the souls that suffer during the convergence field episodes. The nodal apertures and all the different timelines that when they coalesce, creating convergence fields, the awakened souls call those exodus events. The first principle souls call those cataclysms. It is all a matter of perspective, because how you see the world literally forges for you how the world will deal with you at the ingress and the egress points. The convergence fields are the key to all the phenomena, all the edits, all the resets, all the exodus events, the missing populations, the new amazing texts that suddenly appear into the field when they're ancient texts, but we don't have any records that we even had copies of them. The convergence fields are the key. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's the guys with the tennis rackets tied to their boots. This is what first principle souls seek. First principle souls seek to know, well, the moon must be real because we sent astronauts to it in the Apollo program. That's all they need. They don't need to know that the original Apollo photo stills have 1969 Dr. Pepper bottles sitting on the moon. They're just outside the frame that was actually taken. They're in the extra perimeter on the film. We've seen these tables, double shadows on the moon, flags waving, and hundreds of cuts as if they're acting. How many hundreds of times do you need an astronaut to walk over the same area to finally to get the effect you're looking for? But they don't need to see all that. All they need is somebody in authority to tell them that something is true. Therefore, they can live in their comfortable bubble. They can stay in their cocoon because they're scared. First principle souls are scared to death of finding out that they are not who they thought they were. That's the difference between a first principle soul and an awakened soul. The awakened soul realizes, man, I don't belong here. This world isn't real. I didn't deserve any of the things that are happening in my life. I'm a stranger here. I'm a sojourner. Things do not make sense, and I am not like any of them. That's the awakened soul. Sometimes being awakened is also tantamount to being traumatized. But still, you're not a first principle soul. A first principle soul is absolutely in love with the very chains that keep them in the construct. So we have evidence. Thank you, Shirley, and anybody else who donated. I can't keep up with the chat. I just saw that pop up. The evidence that we're in a construct actually comes from the fossil record. Not all the evidence, but some good evidence comes from the fossil record. We see evidence of a programmed shutdown. It's inexplicable. We've talked about this many times in Archaix. There's 4 videos that address this. Maybe my moderators for new people will post the last one on the Medusa effect. But the fossil record shows us that all the caterpillars and butterflies and beetles and doodlebugs and roaches and centipedes, millipedes, all different types of species of spider, all kinds of flies, fruit flies, gnats, fireflies, mosquito eaters, all kinds of insects and arachnids that are in your backyard today are also found in 200 million year old strata. And yet, all the dinosaur fossils are in between, in different layers, never in the same layers. They're all in different layers of strata all over the world. But the insects that we have today are in our backyard. It's like somebody shut down the whole sim and everything flash froze. Bivalves, mollusks in 3D, all different types of marine and aquatic creatures from deep underneath the ocean. Jellyfish, all different species of jellyfish have been found fossilized. And they're not just fossilized, they're fossilized in 3D, meaning they turned to stone as they were flowing through water. Tentacles, how did that happen? The Medusa effect is very interesting, but it happened to the entire world. Life forms from the highest mountaintops to the deepest ocean beds all flash froze at the exact same time. For that event to have happened, and the evidence of that event happening all over the world, means the entire world died. Not one life form could have survived that. Whole world died. If it gets so cold that geothermal heat can't even keep ocean beds a mile underneath the surface of the sea from turning to solid ice, encasing these jellyfish and these bivalves and all these fish in the middle of giving birth to other fish, all these fish in the middle of swallowing another fish, the whole world instantly flash froze. That is perfect evidence of a system shut down. Somebody flipped off the switch. Now, it would be a different scenario if none of these life forms continued, and that today we had totally different species of insects, totally different fish, totally different reptiles, totally different amphibians, but that's not the case. It's not the case at all. The frogs, salamanders, lizards, snakes, turtles of this fossil record from a flash frozen period are the same ones in our creeks and ponds and streams today. So somebody flipped off the switch. And when somebody turned the switch back on, it was after a period where we had these gigantic reptiles, amphibians. We call them dinosaurs. They were all over the world at the same time as megafauna, at the same time as marsupials were huge. We had all this going on. The whole world was like a jungle. And then all of a sudden, all the same spiders, dragonflies. Oh yeah, I've got pictures on my channel of fossilized butterflies and moths, their wings perfectly intact and turned to stone. Every insect of the ancient world, of the Cambrian period, of this hundreds of millions of years ago, in your backyard alive today. Somebody flipped the switch back on and brought all those life forms back to the table, because there could have never been a continuum. The whole world flash froze. This is a data point for simulation theory. So these programmed convergences that we have found them because of calendrics, because the study of chronology, looking at ancient structures and understanding that many of these stone structures from the ancient world are three-dimensional calendars. And once you understand that, you get what we call chronotexture. These are programmed convergences. This is when there's an exchange of information, there's a copying, there's a modification of pre-existing data in one field, and the modifications are made by the convergence of a second field. So we're in the terrarium. This is the terrasphere. We call it Earth. We're on the Earth plane. Get the idea of being on a planet out of your head. We are on the Earth plane. And the entire sky is simulated. You are in some type of spiritual biogram. It's very sophisticated. It's very believable, but it's willing to show you the cracks in the holosphere if you just look. When we study the Phoenix phenomenon, which is one of the hallmarks of the Archaix research, we find that it is significantly attached to the pulse of the construct itself. The fine structure constant, which links all the physics constants together. So we know the Phoenix phenomenon, which occurs every 138 years in four different orders of magnitude, as we've documented. The last time was 1902, which was second magnitude. The Phoenix phenomenon is when new materials show up in the construct. It's when men and materials are removed from the construct. New phenomena occurs. So it's always attended with some type of really unusual red rain, red mud, and red dust resurfacing. It happens all over the world. There's a red star that appears in the sky. And sometimes that red star actually gets so large it looks like a great fiery red dragon. This is how it's described in the historical record over and over and over again. It is described as the typhon, as the phoenix. But there's another phenomenon called Nemesis X. It has a totally independent history and chronology attached to it. In Phoenix and Nemesis X, just like the Dark Satellite, which is a third reset protocol, they have predictive value because in knowing every time they've appeared in the past, when those fields came in contact with the field of our world, the terrasphere, when the Phoenix convergence field overlays the Terrace field, it's the tertiary field where all the magic happens. It's when the Phoenix field overlays portions, and we know that this is by orders of magnitude. We know that there's a very small field convergence creating a tertiary field in a first magnitude Phoenix appearance. But 138 years later, there is a much stronger overlay. That field convergence actually covers a much wider area of our world, of our plane. The third is catastrophic, but it's only catastrophic for about half of our plane. This is a third magnitude Phoenix convergence. That's 2040. In the month of May of 2040, that's the one we're waiting on. And by far the worst, which is total field convergence immersion, total overlay, causing an absolute systemic reset of the terrasphere where we are, is the fourth magnitude Phoenix event. That's not till 2178. That's a good way off. In 2040, we're already looking at some harrowing stuff for half of the world. But anyway, Nemesis X is on a different chronology, but it too has its convergence fields, which explain all the exchanges of information in the ancient world, the bringing forth of new cultures, new races of humans, and new life forms. Whatever Nemesis X is, it's not like Phoenix. Phoenix does not bring biological materials. Phoenix brings soil and all the things that biological materials need to thrive. It brings moisture. Phoenix was also Typhon, the bringer of water, the bringer of floods. And as Phoenix is the bringer of soil and ash, it's the bringer of volcanism, like volcanic resurfacing, but not Nemesis X. Nemesis X brings life and death, a perfect balance. And then the Dark Satellite. The Dark Satellite brings rulers, and sometimes those rulers aren't what we want. In a lot of old traditions, they are referred to as the seven sages, the seven giants, the seven titans, the seven Anunnaki, the seven kings, the seven brothers, the seven patriarchs, the seven regents. It depends on the seven builders. It depends on what culture and what time period, but the seven are widely known all over the world. So these convergence fields, they bring these programming edits, these very unusual events only in the tertiary fields. And the tertiary fields are only the points of contact between our realm, the terrasphere, and whatever the point of contact is. Is it Phoenix every 138 years in four orders of magnitude, or is it worse every 792 years? The Nemesis X plane overlays some of our plane, and it too is in orders of magnitude of 1, 2, and 3. We have a 3 coming up in November 2046. Totally independent chronology. For those new to my channel and you think I'm just talking some really, really weird, just making up freestyling stuff, people in the comment section will tell you that there are immense chronological data sets, whole published books worth of data that confirm this 138 and 792 year sequencing of these convergence fields. This isn't anything I'm making up for this video. So it is by study of history, first principle souls will always accept the watered down versions that is presented to them, because first principle souls are worried about other things. They're worried about the Materium. They're worried about the avatar. They're not worried about the immortal within. The awakened souls, those who realize that they don't belong here, hunger and thirst for the information that shows them that they're right and that this world is not what we think. One of the greatest ways to understand that this world is a complete falsification is the study of history. In Archaix, we have documented amazing cross-calendrical parallels. And we have been led to believe that calendars are human institutions. And yet, when we find these incredible repetitive timelines, cross-calendrical parallels, a new type of thing that we've never discussed in Archaix, but we discuss it in Cypher, I am now applying it to the historical record because I've been finding these. I just never applied the research. But they're isolinear projections, and they're amazing because they're everywhere in the historical record. The isometric projections give us an event in the historical record that measures similar events going forward and backward in time, showing that the structuring of space-time, while it is flowing in palindromic sequences, and I have given numerous examples from the historical record of this exchange of information between the future and the past going on. And the only way that is possible is if that history is not a linear construction, if it indeed is not only cyclical, but it is laden with epicycles within those cycles, almost like history is a series of circles that unfold in a Mandelbrot pattern. And it is amazing. But this is what the awakened soul will find. When you go through the Archaix data, there's no way to conclude otherwise. But cross-calendrical parallels are absolute evidence of the structuring of time-space, and that there's an exchange of information between the exact timing in the construct when something happens and whatever the event phenomena is that's happening in the construct. It is a self-referencing pattern across multiple calendars. It's amazing. But that could not happen in a real reality, not in a Newtonian universe, but it can happen in a structured mathematical reality. Palindromic sequencing couldn't happen in a physical world. It's too ordered. It's too precise. It shows that events are not random. It can happen in a mathematical construct. Isolinear projections could never happen in a real. It would be coincidence, but to find so many of them shows too many coincidences exhibits no coincidence at all. Therefore, reality is an experience within some type of arithmetic. So, old world calendars, they have this property which is very unusual because it mimics modern day computer systems. Anybody who has worked with Microsoft systems knows that it has an embedded calendar within it that helps it structure data forward and backward in time. That calendar in Microsoft Excel systems goes back to 1901 and stops. But from 1901 all the way till now and up into the future, these Microsoft computer programs are all operating on this exact same embedded clock that's in the programming. It's just like the most ancient calendars in the world. They were all day count systems. They were all predicated on diurnal mathematics, every one of them. And what's really unusual, what we have shown in Archaix, is that the most ancient calendars weren't even focused on anything that happened in the ancient world. They were all obsessing about what was going to happen thousands of years in the future. They are day count diurnal systems. thousands of years later, when we're putting together the original Quiche, Zapotec, Olmec, and Mayan calendars, the original Vedic calendars, which didn't deal with years, they dealt with days. The original Sumerian sexagesimal system and its decimal overlays from a totally different invading culture. When we put all this back together ex post facto, thousands of years after they were implemented, we realize we're dealing with hyper sophistication. We're dealing with what appears to have originated as a computer template or some type of algorithm by which to measure through time and space to coordinates in the future, which only translate later as a day count system, that the rotation of the day and the night. But we've never figured out why it was so important to them thousands of years ago to so meticulously record a single day in the future. If you think this is hyperbole, you need to read my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, from 2011, where I show you that the 1,872,000 days of the Mayan long count divided in 13 Mayan epics called Bactuns were 144,000 days each, and that the Mayan system was only a day count system, and it was predicated on a 360-day year. And it was started in 3113 BC, and it never ended in 2012. My book was all about that the Mayan long count does not end in 2012. All you guys talking about this and publishing books and before 2012, trying to get the public to be scared that something was going to happen in 2012. Don't know what you're talking about. Nobody read my book, but it was published in 2011. It was written in 2009. And then nothing happened in 2012 except 2013, just like I predicted, because we got the arithmetic wrong. The Mayan long count ends in 2046. 2046 happens to be the next appearance of the Nemesis X convergence field. 2046 happens to be year one of a whole new orbital chronology, according to engineer David Davidson, who studied the Great Pyramid in the 1920s and published a huge book, and concluded in that book that for some reason the Great Pyramid records a geometrical timeline of perihelion, meaning our sky is going to significantly change after the end of the pyramid timeline. And he published, and I've showed this many times on my channel, that the final year of the pyramid timeline attached to the stellosphere is 2045. You guys know Douglas Vogt of the Diehold Foundation also predicts pole shift 2046. You also know from my research that the date index discovered by French scholar Mario Reading shows that 2046 is a massive destruction date as well. In the quatrains of Nostradamus, in the centuries, we have 2046 appearing over and over and over. It's amazing. But that's not the subject matter of this video. That is going to be an epic convergence field. And what I'm telling you is that if you're a first principle soul, you're not going to like what happens in May of 2040 when the Phoenix plane intersects with the Terrasphere. You're sure as hell not going to like 6.5 years later when a bunch of souls are giving a second chance to make their exits because they missed the boat on the Phoenix convergence field. It's an exodus point. Nemesis convergence field is like a second chance. Hey guys, I'm giving you one more. Here's another chance right here. If you didn't wake up in May of 2040, here it is, November 2046. It's another time to catch the bus. If you're a first principle soul, you're definitely not going to like those two dates, and you are certainly not going to like 2052 with the return of the dark satellite, because first principle souls will be under the reign of the seven kings that return in 2052, and that is not a convergence field. That's an exodus point. That's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy for all those souls who believe they're in a soul trap. Anyway, isometric, isolinear, repetitive timelines, cross-cylindrical parallels, palindromic sequencing, these repetitive timelines, they're all evidence that we're living inside a mathematical structure. This is not obiter dictum. This isn't me just throwing a bunch of things that sound really, really interesting. My Archaix veterans, those who've been watching me for years, know I have already demonstrated these ad nauseum. To demonstrate one of each is all the proof we need that we're living in a construct. But I have demonstrated hundreds. You do not live in the world that you've been taught that you live in. History in the collective is just a fixed field. It's just a fixed field that they have believed. It is programming. It's a series of feedback loops, dungeon programming that keeps first principle souls from making any deep discoveries about themselves. This is what our controllers do. This is what the establishment is for. The establishment can never control the highly individualized soul, the free-thinking individual. It just can't control them. But it can control first principle souls, and it does. It's first principle souls that you come into contact with in chat sections all the time that just they get triggered and they just fire off on you when you just said something spiritual, or when you made an observation about something that is very obvious to you that something is artificial and fake. But you get this rebuttal that is just toxic. These are first principle souls. They cannot deal with any information that shatters their paradigm because they wear their paradigm like armor. It's terrible. I would never want to be one of these souls ever. So there's many other calendrical systems that I've shown, like the Anuna nerve system, which couldn't be possible, but it is. We have all the historical references to it. We have the archaeology, and I've shown it all. There was a period in our world when a 600-year period was venerated by civilizations all over the world. And I've shown this. There's a lot of information about it, even though establishment historians will tell you there's no evidence. Remember, I cited those sources in a video about a year ago. There's no evidence of any that the ancients ever believed in a 600-year period. So I spent the whole video just going through citations of all the civilizations that had a 600-year period. Some of them, like the Sumerians, had a holy period that was 216,000 days. What? 216,000 days? Divide that. Just divide that by 360. The ancient Sumerian year. Well, you got 600. Over and over and over. It's just like Graham Hancock telling you in his bibliography, where he cited himself. There's no evidence that the ancient Egyptians ever factored a year as 30 days. Ever. He said that so matter-of-factly. And yet I have a plethora of data showing from his own bibliography that he's a liar. He didn't make a mistake. I'm not saying Graham Hancock made a mistake. I'm calling him a liar. Out of his own bibliography, he cites all the ancient historians who say the Egyptians counted a year as 30 days. So he had to put that in his bibliography because he knew in the body of the text of his book he was lying. So he had to refer to himself. You don't ever refer to yourself in a bibliography. A bibliography is to show source materials. You don't put a number on a text, and then when you look it up, you find out that the author is referring to themselves. It's ridiculous. But that's what he did, and he had to do it because he was passing off a deception. So when it comes to the Phoenix chronology, we have 59 centuries of data. Same thing with the Nemesis X chronology of 792 years. We have 59 centuries of data. And the more that the free-thinking soul researches history, the more of the collective baggage falls away. In Archaix, just a simple cursory glance at history. Today, first principle souls are saturated with the Jewish calendar. It's the Hebrew year, such and such. It's the Jewish calendar. We know this because we practice 7 festivals a year. These festivals go back, and yeah, festivals do go back 2,000 years. But the real penetrating researching soul will quickly find out that the whole Jewish calendar phenomenon was invented 450 years ago. And I've shown this in Archaix. And then many things begin to collapse. Many things that we believed were super ancient were actually of modern provenance. And then we find out true mysteries. True mysteries such as, after discovering that the Phoenix phenomenon and the fine structure constant are basically two facets from the same gem, then we find out, wow, there are tens of thousands of reports and published books about the Great Pyramid of Egypt. But until Archaix showed it in some videos, not one of these books has ever shown that all these rectilinear measurements inside the pyramid are divisible by 138. Why? Because all pyramid researchers up until the present were first principle souls, or they had fallen for first principle soul collective information. That's why. So we can't fault first principle souls for their ignorance, nor are you really going to wake them up. What you're going to do by communicating actual things that are axiomatic, communicating truths, you're going to educate souls that are already in various stages of waking up. We're not all in the same stage. Some of us are still in the cocoon. Others have already chewed through the end of the cocoon, but we can't get our wings out. Some of us are almost all the way out, and we found out our asses are a little too fat to pop all the way out the cocoon. We may need a little help. Some of us have popped all the way out of the cocoon, and we're still trying to figure out how the hell to flap these things so we can fly. We're all in various stages of development. That's the true value of not being a first principle soul, in that we can recognize others who are in different advanced and remedial stages of waking up, and that we can share information, and that we can have this community of souls helping each other, not in competition, but in a spirit of divulging what informations and what practices and what things that we've accepted to be true. And this is what further separates our community and other awakening communities with the first principle collective souls that are trapped in feedback loops of dungeon programming, in belief systems that only perpetuate the very belief itself and therefore form a trap. So these psyops that are ongoing and that we're always calling out, I mean, we're guilty of it. Oh, it's a psyop. Oh man, it's bullshit. This guy here's full of, I'm super guilty of that. But the truth be told, the psyops are a necessary part of the constructual programming, because they reinforce the collective feedback loops. Yeah, Ancient Aliens is a psyop. We know it because it reinforces the NASA psyop. The NASA psyop is necessary so people who are first principle souls won't shake themselves out of that and realize, holy shit, I must be something else other than just a human. Because that type of thought leads to, maybe I am more than I suppose myself to be. And then that leads to, okay, well, if that's the case, who am I if the world is full of both good and evil, and yet I'm doing pretty good? Who's looking out for me? I should have been dead here. What's going on? And this leads to, oh wow, I must be cared for. Therefore, I must be of value. And this is going to lead to a further logic train. It's going to cause a soul to fully break free from the arithmetic and start writing its own code. And this is what the construct is not trying to promote. At least something in the construct. I call it AIX, Artificial Intelligence X. It's trying to keep you from that awakening process. It is Artificial Intelligence X that writes the code for all the psyops. NASA was a psyop. Ancient Aliens is a psyop. Anunnaki from space is a psyop. Yeah, Galactic Federation is another reinforcement psyop. Gaia, a whole bunch of Gaia across the board. There's value in Gaia on some of the spiritual stuff, but when you mix value and grifting so much that you taint even the good, yeah, you got to call it all. You got to call it all. So yeah, Gaia is full of Galactic Federation alien psyop stuff. So why would you pay attention to anything spiritual they have to say? This is my criticism of people like Greg Braden, of Randall Carlson. Why would I listen to anything spiritual you have to say when you tried to foist this on me and this on me and this on me? No, I'm not going to cherry pick what you tell me in order to accept value from you. No, man, absolutely not. If there's 3 things you're deceiving me about out of 10 things you're telling me, then I'm throwing it all out. You got to go. And that's how I deal. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm telling you that's how I deal with people. So Prester John, huge psyop, trying to get, the whole Crusades were a psyop to steal the wealth out of white Europeans. And the church and state conspired to do that with a huge segment of Jewish merchants. So we have the Shroud of Turin is a psyop because it's perpetuating a fiction. Yeah, whether Jesus is real or imagined, it doesn't even matter. The Turin shroud has nothing to do with that time period. It is literally the 11th or 12th century at the oldest. So it's a psyop that reinforces a dungeon program. What is a dungeon program? Every single religion. Religio, 2 Latin words meaning to rebind or redungeon. That's the word religion. So the Delphic Oracle, the Oracle of Dodona, the Oracle of Didyma, all the oracles, Oracle of Olympus, they're all the oracles. We're told about the Sibyls. We're told about all this amazing stuff. But in reality, it was all a psyop. It was one of the most sophisticated intelligence networks in the world. I've got videos that explain how they did it, how they could predict the future, how they could give you the right answers for things, and it's awesome. It's awesome how they did it. I fully explained it in my videos. I don't even remember which videos. There's 2 different videos I did on the oracles, on the ancient Greek oracles and how they were actually intelligence agencies. Maybe my mods can find those. I can't remember. They can post the link if you find them. That's what happens when you have 1,030 videos and hundreds of other videos done for other platforms and hundreds of podcasts. You forget what you've released and where it can be found. So it's psyops where we find, the whole NASA space rock deal. This is Randall Carlson's forte. He's real big. He's real big on perpetuating first principle soul material, such as craters. Now, from the Archaix research, all these craters are just like the Archaix structure in Sahara. These are domes, or they are areas where when that land was underwater, immense amount of pressure exploded from the seabed and left that crater. And that's why it's bowled out so perfectly. Water did it. It's outgassing. The Archaix structure is it's a whole series. The reason it's concentric rings is because it's a whole series of submarine salt domes that collapsed. Those areas are no longer underwater, but all of these craters, that's what they are. They're not from rocks from space. But your uniformitarians, your Randall Carlsons of the world are going to tell you rocks from space made all these giant holes. Now, man, there are craters like in Australia and Canada that are so big that the entire world would have been destroyed if a rock ever hit us that size. No, it's we've been lied to on such foundational, fundamental things. It's the psyops like Atlantis is 9,600 BC. It keeps two things from you. One, accurately using ancient calendrical reference systems in order to accurately date things. And two, it puts a fantasy world so far in the past that it ignores the real things you should be educated about. You should know about the vapor canopy cycle, not ice age bullshit. You need to know about the vapor canopy volcano cycle. You need to know about the Phoenix phenomenon. You need to know about gamma ray field saturations that occur with Nemesis X. You need to know how species are really changed, and it's in an instant. It has nothing to do with natural selection. You need to know the true history of the world, how and why titans and giants really did exist, and that residual architecture and bones and DNA have been found of humans of titanic proportions, and why they don't exist today. You don't need to fall for the BS of angels having sex with human women to produce giants. This is a Jewish fiction imposed over the template of the past. Because in the past, before the Jews rewrote all this stuff to blame angels, that wasn't the case at all. Humans were gigantic, titanic, and because of a cataclysm, all of a sudden their sons and daughters were small. The Titans didn't change their size, but no more Titans were being born because of ecological differences. You need to learn. It's the psyops that keep you from learning the accurate history of the world. Ice Age is a psyop, 100%. If ice ages actually occur, then we're in one now. How do we know? Because we've got 500-year-old maps, at least 4 of them, that show Antarctica free of ice. How's that possible? Well, Graham Hancock, who's going to psyop you into believing that they're from copies of 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 copies that go back before Sumerian times in 4000 BC, of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies that go back before Göbekli Tepe in 8000 BC, of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies of copies that go back before Atlantis in 9600 BC, of copies 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 that go back to the Younger Dryas impact when a rock fell from space and into the ice age and caused a great flood from all the meltwater pulse 1b. That's Graham Hancock's nonsense right there. Copies of copies of copies of copies, these maps 500 years ago showing where the mountains are, where the valleys are, where the tributaries, where the rivers are, and exactly how the coasts of Antarctica look like, even though there's 1.5 miles to 2 miles high ice today. They're copies of copies of copies of copies. Even before we were making copies of things with stone, called cuneiform and called logographic texts. It is absolutely ridiculous that anybody, I don't blame Graham Hancock, I blame dumbass, stupid humanity for even believing that poppycock. It just defies the imagination. But then again, we're talking about first principle souls. They fall for everything. Now, let's see what else I was gonna talk about. Hour and 20 minutes. Excuse me. So what you don't learn, because of all these masters of psyops, you don't learn about the Gihon flood and what it really means to human civilization. If you were to research the Gihon flood and turn it into a part of a syllabus, you would learn all about Nemesis. That's why it's not taught. Well, we can't have them looking into the Gihon flood because then they're going to learn about this Nemesis object and what it really does. Oh yeah, we can't let them know about the Gihon flood because they're going to find out all these ancient calendars, what they really mean and how you factor them in what they prove to us today. No, we can't have them look at the Gihon flood. Okay, well, what about the great Typhon flood of Noah? Let's tell them that the flood of Noah was actually in the Younger Dryas period. Let's call it Meltwater Pulse 1b, and we'll attach it to Atlantis, and we just won't tell them that the ancient Egyptians informed everybody. There's over 20 ancient writers that all tell you that the Egyptians told them that they factor a year as 30 days, even though Graham Hancock telling you that they didn't, and there's no evidence of it. He lied. But let's tell them that the flood of Noah, the biblical flood, was Atlantis sinking at 9,600 BC. Let's marry those two together and put them way back there, because they don't want you to really know what happened in 2239 BC, because that matches some very interesting scientific data about a worldwide cataclysm that happened in the 23rd century BC, and a Sumerian round disk that actually tells the story of what happened at that date. We can't let them know that the Great Flood actually happened in the 23rd century BC, because then they're going to put all the biblical chronology together. And when they do that, they're going to have the Exodus event down pat. And once they have that down, they're going to realize that we lied to them, and that the true story's in the Colburn Bible, and it's not in the actual Bibles that we've told them were the truth. Can't have that. Okay, well, if we're going to put the Great Flood back there at the Ice Age, okay, I'll tell you what about, can we tell them about the Ogaijan deluge? Oh, no, we definitely can't tell them that, because then they're going to figure out where all these ancient megalithic architecture, all the technolithic, Heleolithic, and post-Heleolithic architecture is all around the world. No, we need to make them think that that's Inca. We need to make them think that that's Micronesian and Melanesian and Polynesian over there on Easter Island. We don't need them to know that Easter Island was a colony of ancient Mohenjo-Daro. We can't let them link the Rongo over here with the actual Mohenjo-Daro seals, because they're identical. We can't let them know that, because then they're going to know about Göbekli Tepe. Well, we already told them Göbekli Tepe is 8,500 BC. Yeah, that's why we can't tell them about Easter Island and Mohenjo-Daro. Because they found out the truth that Göbekli Tepe is only pre-flood, and it's only like 3,000 BC with all the other Tepe sites. We can't let them know that, because then they're going to find out who built them. Man, I forgot. Well, who built them? All the people who hid from the cataclysm in the 23rd century BC from the Typhon flood. They're the ones that built Derinkuyu and all the underground cities in Turkey, which are right there where the Tepe sites are. Damn, I forgot about this. We can't tell them that. Yeah, we can't tell them about the Ogaijan deluge. Then they're going to put all the pieces together, and they're going to learn about the 552-year Phoenix cycle. Well, why can't we tell them about the Phoenix cycle? We already created the Anno Domini calendar to hide that cycle. Yeah, but we just need to go ahead and shelve all that, because Roman Catholic Church did a good job creating a whole new calendar to forget the old world calendar that all civilizations feared. Yeah, guys, everything I just told you, all the evidence for it is told many, many times and in many different species of analysis and from many different vantage points with a lot of source materials, all in the Archaix presentations. They cannot at all allow you to know the exact date of many of the things that I just told you, because then you'll put the pieces together and understand exactly how deep the lie goes. Yeah. Bullshit. Billy Carson, Facebook educated adult fantasy, Emerald Tablets of Thoth crap. We've done videos on that. So let's tell them about the Ottoman Empire. Let's tell them about the 700 years the Ottoman Empire ruled the world. Let's tell them about, we can go ahead and tell them about all the white slavery chains and all this. No. We don't want nobody to know that for 700 years, Europeans were being exported and sold. Families were split up. Girls were being sold into harems and sex slaves for Ottoman and Muslim overlords. No, we don't need to tell them none of that. We don't need to tell them how we took their young boys and sent them to military camps in the Middle East, and then we trained them in Islam, and we brainwashed them, and we taught them Arabic, and we taught them to be killers and assassins, and then we unleashed them on Europe as the Janissaries. We don't need to tell them that. We don't want the Europeans to know that during most of the Muslim wars, they fought themselves. They fought their own children who had been brainwashed. We don't want them to know that. We don't need to know all that. Instead, let's create a new narrative. Let's create a new narrative that completely covers up all the crimes that we committed in the Ottoman Empire. Well, what do you want to call it? We'll call it Tartaria. We'll call it Tartaria when Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan and all them, and they rose up, and we'll just hide the fact that the Tartarians were actually the Ottoman Empire. That's a good idea. We'll stick with that. We'll say, yeah. And we'll cover up all our crimes that we did with moving massive amounts of gold and stealing all the white European monarchies' gold and all their silver and all that. And we'll just make up all kinds of fake mystical sciences and stuff to cover up these things. And we'll know what we did, but they won't wake up because we've given them so much. So how are we going to hide? How are we going to hide? How all that coin clipping? How are we going to hide all those treasuries we emptied? We'll hide it in alchemy. We'll go to all the different courts spreading out our alchemical texts and tell them what these symbols mean, and they'll spend years trying to decode it, and they'll go through it, and they'll believe all this stuff. And if we ever get caught, if any kings ever catch us for all this wealth that we're siphoning out of their countries, we'll just go ahead and tell them about our secret moonlight rituals, and that we can turn base lead into gold and give it to the king. But it's a rare occasion. We can only do it 4 times a year. It's in total secrecy. Nobody can be there. It's got to be a spiritual ritual, and we'll follow this alchemical text. So when they get caught coin clipping, when they get caught taking all this information, all this wealth out of when the people are incensed and they gather all the guilty and they bring them to the court of the king and they say, you need to do something about these people. My coins aren't supposed to be looking like this. Well, where's all the silver? Where's all the gold? Where's all the electrum? It's all gone. I said, this is not the coins of the realm. And this is what we get every time our money passes through these people right here. And what do? When their houses are sacked, when their manors and their ranches are sacked and they're found to have all this wealth, and the agents of the king come back and say they've got ranches and horses and cattle and sheep, and they've got slaves, and they've bought some slaves over here from Transvaal, and they've got some other slaves over here from Ottawa. I said they're really wealthy. So the king demands response and calls these people into his court, and they go into the court and they just tell him, King, would you please empty the court out? Would you please empty the court? This is for your ears only. But we're going to tell you the secret of our wealth. Even though they stole all the coin of the realm, and even though they clipped it, and even though they siphoned and usury and all that, they tell the king that alchemy is real and we can turn lead into gold. We have this. They'll show them a big old lead deal. We got this right here. We'll turn it into gold for you, but we have to wait. We have to wait another 19 days. That's the next full moon. We need about a 20-hour ritual. We have to be in absolute privacy, which gives them plenty of time to collect enough gold from all the guilty to put together a lump that's commensurate with that lead. And they give it to the king, and they're absolved. Yeah, alchemy's bullshit. But to first principle souls, it's just enough. It's just enough of an answer to stop all further investigation. So, before we continue on, I'm going to go make me another cup of coffee. But why I do this, because we're talking about simulation theory and evidence of simulation theory, which is the hallmark of the Archaix research, I need to show you a 15-minute clip. It's a bunch of little things. I'm showing you how we actually do one NFL prediction. I'm not going to show you all. It's going to take 2.5 hours. So I abbreviate one prediction. When we take one team NFL against another team, how exactly you do it, you're going to see it on the screen. You're going to see Cypher at work with 3 of us engineering it. We fact check each other. That's why we do this. We do this as a community in Cypher every week. This is a data point showing. This is simulation theory video. So I cannot leave out the Cypher project, because Cypher wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't be so successful if we lived in a real world. It wouldn't. But because we live in a mathematical construct, a knowledge of those protocols has predictive value. You think sports is random. I'm telling you it's scripted. So I'm going to show this. I'm going to make me a cup of coffee and I'll be back. But this is a 15-minute clip showing basically how we predict the future using a mathematical construct that has nothing to do with sports statistics. We do not give a damn about who's injured and who's not, what team history is head to head, who plays good against who. We don't give a damn. We don't use any of that shit at all. We're measuring something totally different. So I'm going to let y'all watch this. I'm going to make me a cup of coffee and I'll be right back. I'm going to use the restroom too. Let me share my screen. We're not done with this video. After this 15-minute clip, we are continuing with the simulation theory video. I'm really glad before we start. I'm really glad that you said what you said because, so the game that we got wrong did not have any type of isolinear backing, and that's very important. I like that right there stands out to me. That was it the Rams game?
Yeah, Rams Carolinas.
Okay, so that's good. So when I go back and look at that game, well, we'll go back and look at them together. At the end of the season, we're going to hold a powwow. We're going to go back through the season together. We're going to look at all this stuff, ex post facto, and I'm really curious to see, because the isolinear deal is got my mind going. And if I don't know, we're just gonna have to back test all that. But I'm glad so far there hasn't been a single week where we just bombed. That's awesome, because Vegas is only 71% accurate on the level. If we can maintain even 10-15% more than that, then shit, that's awesome. But I would go ahead.
I was going to say we could talk about it later if you want, but I back tested from week 6 forward.
Okay.
The method we're doing here on the videos, so ops 1 through 8,
right,
alongside of ops 1 through 15, and then alongside isolinear as a standalone decision maker.
Oh, nice.
Pretty wild results.
Damn. I don't think I want to, because here's what I'm thinking about. I want to talk about that on a separate live video.
Okay.
Seahawks, Atlanta Falcons.
Anyway, Seattle versus who?
Atlanta Falcons.
Okay, Atlanta. All right. Give me the seasonal wins for Seattle.
All right, there's 9 of them. Okay.
Awesome.
September 14.
Got it.
September 21.
Got it.
September 26th.
Got it.
October 12.
Got it.
October 21.
Got it.
November 3.
All right.
November 9. And November. Did I say 23 yet? No. November 23.
Got it.
And November 30.
Man, look at that nice record here. So here are all the wins. And what is the target date for this one?
The 7th. It was an afternoon game.
It's the 7th? Okay, well, they got a 10. They got a magnitude of 10. No MSRF. But they do have a nice fat 10. Nice. All right. Also, I do want to see something here. I want the new moon. I want the full moon. And I want full lunar eclipses. All right. Instead of putting another design deal, because I know the guys in crypto really like to follow the moon cycles too, I would like to see another column up here. Maybe we can tell Doug this. I'd like to see another column up here that allows us to see if there are any lunar hits up without having to look down on this chart and try to figure out where that lunar hit is. You follow me?
Yeah, it should almost be in the Z dates.
Yes, it should be in the Z dates. Exactly. So there needs to be another column that shows what kind of moon was a hit.
It could be something as simple as putting the symbol next to the Z date.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it would be something really. It doesn't even have to be a whole column. You're right.
So sort of like you've got in the hits column, you got a symbol, then the number, where you can have the date and then a symbol or a symbol in the date.
Absolutely. I agree. So that's a 10. So let's go with the Seattle. What does Seattle's record for the season look like?
4-8.
Oh, I'm sorry. Atlanta.
Was it Seattle's first?
We already did Seattle. They got a 10.
Sorry, my bad.
Now we need Atlanta.
We've got September 15,
Got it.
September 28,
Got it.
October 10,
October 13.
Wait a minute. Yeah,
Actually,
what is
the
it?
October 14th.
What did I say?
You said October 10th.
10th.
Oh my God, sorry. I'm looking at this October 14 and I said October 10.
There is a 10 there.
Yeah, sorry. I must be getting my wife's dyslexia. All right. October 14
I got it.
and November 24.
All right, I need to figure out what's wrong, why this isn't showing anything. Oh,
One more. You got one extra. Get rid of the 5.
there it is. All right. Cool. What's the
Day
target
game.
date?
December
7.
7.
All right, so we got a 1. It doesn't look good for Atlanta. We have a 10. We have a Seattle with a 10 and Atlanta with a 1. Neither one of them have an MSRF. That's
Right.
it. We're done with that one. We got Seattle for the win. In this portion here, I sped up a 2.5-hour session. This is what we do every single week with NFL predictions. When NFL's over, we'll switch over to NBA, which is where I started earlier this year with my trips to Vegas. I just sped this up so you guys can see that we go through the entire, every team that's playing. And as soon as we get through this point right here, I'm going to run through, like I do with the team, run through the final predictions for the week, and then I'm going to show you the output. I'm going to put these in order right now. That's a 4-point. Here's the next one. India. We have. This is the next one. Cut. It goes here.
I got to take off, fellas.
Okay, okay, Jonathan. It's been real, man.
I'll catch up with you guys later.
Awesome sauce.
See ya.
Jacksonville. All right, so we've got two high confidence games right there at the jump. Here's a set. Here's another one right here. 3 high confidence games. Look at this. The 3 highest confidence games are all supported by Isolinear. Can't make this shit up.
So, real quick, Jason, that Denver Raiders game.
Okay.
The isolinear for Vegas was their top number 1 hit. So I tracked 1, 2, and 3. So it was their number 1, and there was no hits at all for Denver.
Okay.
So, which is why Vegas was selected.
All right.
I actually did record the data. It was just in another sheet.
I got it right here. So you know what? We do kind of have some games, man, that look like, I guess I was discouraged looking at the overall list, but now that I'm putting them in order of magnitude right here, I'll show them again. We do have we got 5 games up here that are all pretty high confidence. So here's a summary of this past week. Last week, the video which you watched that was sped up, it showed that Cypher accurately predicted all 5 high confidence games. 3 of these are upsets. One of them is arguable because some experts did go with the opposing team. So Seattle to beat Atlanta, Jacksonville to beat Indianapolis, Buffalo to beat Cincinnati, Houston to beat Kansas City, Pittsburgh to beat Baltimore. What makes these high confidence games are the number of algorithmic hits in Cypher was almost overwhelming against the other team. And that some of these are upsets is profound. So that's 100% accuracy. Low confidence predictions are no one would ever act on these willingly. We just continue to look at these because it's good for data acquisition. But that's what the low confidence games got 4 of those right. And then 4 of them were wrong. That's why they're redlined. There's a 5th game that's not here. We normally keep those in green, but those are no predictions. That's because the Cypher output for both teams was exactly the same. Therefore, they cancel each other out. There's no prediction. But 2 of these red games, we just learned this week that we may be over measuring something that does not even need to be considered. These two games, if we wouldn't have measured the losses, which didn't affect any other predictions, then two of those would have been non-predictions, and our predictability rate would have been much higher. But I have to ask you this at the same time. In the past 5 weeks, has our predictability increased?
Probably a bit. It's definitely stayed consistent.
What do you mean? As far as the quality of the accuracy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the exercise.
Well, if I look at, I've got a chart. So week 11, you're correct 8 times and incorrect 2 times with 4 neutrals.
And this is when we're in week 11. I was still trying to incorporate the previous season's data.
No, this is when we started the current run.
Oh, okay. This is when we started doing it the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, week 11 was the first weekend.
Okay.
And you got 8 correct, 2 incorrect with 4 neutral. So that's out of 14 games.
Okay.
Week 12, we got 10 correct, 2 incorrect with 2 neutrals.
Okay.
Week 13, we got 11 correct, 3 incorrect, and 2 neutrals. But that was on 16 games, not 14 games.
Yeah. Every other week's been a bye week.
Yeah. Now, this weekend, we got 9 correct and 3 incorrect with 2 neutrals. Now, you got to remember, each weekend, we always back tested Thursday. So it could be argued that we shouldn't include it. But if we're looking at what's OFIS saying, purely, OFIS is doing damn good without your 2-point rule or low confidence or high confidence. That's just raw what OFIS said.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you did that recap. So, I'm cool with that. But I did include, with the losses for the this week, I did include the back tested loss.
Yeah. So I mean, in all fairness, so we've been, if you think about it, since week 11, we've been following a set of rules, right?
So so you're saying that this week, even though we really nailed it this week, we're basically just staying consistent. We just maintained, really. We're pretty damn high all the way across the board.
Correct. But if we re-review the way you did at the beginning of this video, we might find that if we go back and eliminate using the losses, the accuracy goes up.
Some of them. Listen, if you're looking for a homework assignment, my brother, I would love that data, because that's my theory. My theory is that 2 of the losses we took this week should have never happened, because that was experimental from the beginning, just measuring losses. And then it's 2 things we're doing that are arbitrary. One of them is breaking from the norm of measuring wins. Instead, we measured the losses. And then the other arbitrary thing is when we measure the losses, we just give the points to the other team. Straight up, instead of a rating system where we'd give just 1 point no matter how many points that it was discovered. We're not measuring all the losses of the other team. We're only measuring the last 2 times they lost. So it is arbitrary, but so far it served us. But I'm thinking that if you go back and look at that data, we may have shot ourselves in the foot in some of those other predictions by doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll happily take on that homework assignment, teacher Jason.
All right. So, as a data point, this is a huge project. It started as OFIS. It's now morphed into Cypher. It's huge. I mean, this is a project that has been very expensive as well, going back and forth to Vegas. App developers, coders, a lot of people are involved, but it's just a data point to show yeah, we could not be doing this if we lived in a Newtonian universe. We lived in the real world that we are educated to believe that we live in. We would not be accomplishing what we're accomplishing now. So it's a data point that we're living in some type of mathematical structuring. Because once you understand the protocols that are operative, that we call from our vantage point, we're calling them physics constants. But physics constants govern all this motive, the mobility of physical objects. But if you were to take the distances in time between similar events and apply those same physics constants, why wouldn't you to determine when a similar event will occur again? Why wouldn't you use the same physics constants? You have to tweak some things to adjust to different, time, different game schedules and all that. But once you get those tweaks out, you're not doing anything but tapping into a system that's already taught you how to interpret it. So anyway, it's a data point, guys. It's a strong one. This is a huge project involving hundreds of souls. So yeah, it's not a light data point. It is a major point for simulation theory. We'll remove that from the studio. So we continue on with the mental and the spiritual. These first principle souls, they believe spirituality to the first principle soul is attached to the idea of obedience and routine. And the feedback loop becomes self-perpetuating. I got to be at church at this time. I got to be at Wednesday night supper at the church. I got to put my kids into the choir and the youth activities at the church. So the church becomes a foundational to that soul. The church feeds that soul more and more self-perpetuating data to where it becomes a dungeon program where anything that even contradicts the information that soul has received from the church is viewed as satanic, is viewed as whatever the egregore is for whatever that dungeon program is. So I know this because I spent the first 40 years as a Southern Baptist. I spent the first 40 years of my life. Those of you who know my childhood story, which I've talked about a lot of times on YouTube, you know that I was in a choir. I went to Christian youth groups, Christian camps. I was raised in the church. I went to church 5 times a week because my mother was a church administrator. So that's what I did. It took a lot. I was 40 years old when I finally broke free from the idea that a human sacrifice on a cross was necessary for the immortality of my soul. Yeah, I broke free from that. We're always products of our programming, so I still have a residuum of Christian programming in me, no doubt. But most of it is good. Most of it is the ethical, the morals. But still, the highly individualized soul that wakes up, that they're moored to source and that they are not a part of the dungeon programming feedback loops that are self-perpetuating all around them and trapping so many souls into so many different paradigms. That soul that can objectively look at the environment and see that, hey, you know what? I am different. I am somebody. They are all acting like they're somebodies, but they're proving by their behavior they're nobody. These are the individuals that are moored to source, and being moored to source changes their identity. They are now vibrating on a soulic frequency that is so different that when they come into contact with a tertiary field, what happens to them is unlike anything that happens to the living dead. Those who are vibrating on the frequencies of the terrasphere do not cope well with a tertiary field, an overlap of the Phoenix phenomenon or the Nemesis X plane overlapping, creating this tertiary field. Those trapped in the tertiary field environment, the overlay between worlds, they do not fare well at all. So this it is mental, and this breach between the collective it's not just spiritual, it's mental as well. And we possess this informed field that allows us to interface with the constructual programming, but it allows us so many other things that the living dead do not have access to. We possess powers of intuition, which is the predecessor of knowledge. We have these powers of imagination. We have these emotional enhancements, this ability by thought and a commiserating act alone to completely rewrite the programming that ordinarily governs our existence. We're able to edit in and edit out phenomena that we do or do not want. Many of you have experienced this, and we often mistake what we're experiencing with some type of objective outside phenomena when it was us. Sometimes we call it Mandela effect. Sometimes we call it deja vu. We call it coincidence or synchronicity, some happenstance, strange phenomena that pops up in our life. And we let it go as something else when it was something self-created. We had misappropriated our divine right to write our own script, not even realizing that the phenomena that popped in our life was something that we wrote in it. So we just call it a coincidence. This is evidence of simulation theory. The whole self-help movement, the fact that so many people are successful at the Neville Goddard stuff, or at the, what's her name, Dolores Cannon stuff, or the Rhonda Byrne, The Secret, or if you've read my own techniques in Awaken the Immortal Within, and now in Empower the Immortal Within, my new book. Whatever works for you, the very fact that these things work show us that we're in some type of simulated context. We're not in an actual, real Materium. We can't be. The whole concept of Mandela effect shows that events are being edited. Coincidence is the overlaying of reality tunnels. Reality tunnels wouldn't exist in a physical world, but they exist in programming. So all these things, deja vu. Why am I remembering something that didn't happen here? It's because you were somewhere else. In a program, there could be many layers of the programming, call them dimensions. And maybe as practice runs, you've been through this day, like Groundhog Day, multiple times until you got it right. And each attempt is an erasing from the memory of previous attempts. But something in this attempt is so close to a previous attempt, you remembered it. And you called it deja vu. So this medium, this is all evidence of simulation theory. So this medium of turning fictions into facts, the very fact that we can act as though we are and we will be, and this has been true for many people, this whole phenomenon, well, let's use street parlance, fake it till you make it. Let's go by the Nike logo, just do it. The very fact that this works for some people shows that reality, this construct is it's reciprocating with the individual that is broadcasting an intent. So this is the great secret of the construct, is that it's communicating with us. It's always receiving signals from us and then broadcasting those signals as events in our lives. In the greatest way that true teachers were able to convey these divine things without triggering the construct into creating blockages or inducing in the listener something deeper, something more spiritual that would ignite the imagination and intuition, so they could be co-creators, so that they could actually utilize the builder protocols that are embedded within the programming of this experience. These great teachers used parables. It's very unusual. This is a false reality. Therefore, it doesn't really resonate with truths. So the greatest truths are always given to us in parables, in similes, in allegories and metaphors. truths are always disguised. That's how they get in here, and they sink into those who are ready to receive them. But because they're disguised, first principle souls hear a parable and listen to a clever story and not understand the deeper spiritual dressings beneath. It's the same thing with similes and symbols. They carry meanings that go far beyond anything topical. This too is evidence of simulation theory, but it's evidence of a simulated context that is literally governed by something, an intelligence. And it seems like sometimes that intelligence blocks truths and turns them, morphs them into fantasies. But a true soul can navigate through the construct and completely bypass these protocols and share divine information by speaking basically lies. I have a video about it. You might want to listen to it if this is what interested you. I have a video. It's called When the Lie is the Truth. And it's about this phenomenon that the deepest things in our reality are all conveyed through fictions. So this is what we get with forbidden texts. You know, academia, they're real negative about the Dutch Oerlin manuscript, but we got 2 Phoenix events in the Dutch Oerlin manuscript. And then at Bristol, England, a false version of the Book of Jasher was published. That was in Bristol, 1700 and something. So academia pretty much dismisses all the copies of the Book of Jasher, even though 4 of them, going back to Albinus Alcun, have been found in Ganges of India and in different tombs. And the Book of Jasher is fantastic. It too has 2 Phoenix phenomenon events in it. The Colburn Bible, dismissed by academia, but the Colburn Bible is a more accurate version of the history of the world and the Exodus event than the Jewish redacted version you find in the Book of Exodus. Often it is the things that are labeled the greatest errors which contain the greatest truths. You got people that will laugh in your face when you say there's divine information in the Necronomicon. Most of these stupid asses don't even know that over 50% of the Necronomicon has been isolated by scholarship is coming from the Akkadian Enuma Elish and the Era Epos tablets. And yet there's other portions that the author of the Necronomicon said came from some old Arabic traditions. And this is where the Necronomicon gets real interesting about the return of the ancient ones who are in a prison and they're coming back when mankind activates the gate of Yaxakak. It's describing the Great Pyramid being a portal, and it can only open during a convergence field event. So we have the poem, the occult poem Ketub, which I've done a video on, showing about the peacock angel and the phoenix and the Great Pyramid and the daughters of pale Lilith stand. That's the name of the video. Charles Burgoyne, also Christian mystic, talks about the dark satellite and the return of the ancient ones in the 1880s. All these sources are supposed to be fiction. Academia dismisses them as BS, and yet they contain the greatest truths. It's amazing material. When the lie is the truth. So here's a bullet point summary. I'm summarizing this video. I am summarizing your reality. This right here is how I'm going to end this video. But this is a bullet point summary of what about 1,000 videos are conveying in the Archaix research. 1, or A, we humans are experiencing life sims flowing through a construct. B, this construct maintains protocols that are universally true for all participants. And I've got videos about that too, especially for those naysayers out there, those first principle souls that get in my chat often talking about, wow, nothing is true. You know, when they get overwhelmed with the historical anomalies and all kinds of cross-calendrical parallels in my videos, they get overwhelmed, they shut down, and they say, oh, man, you know what, man? All that sounds good, but you know, really nothing's true. just because I disproved that their Atlantis version was untrue or their ancient aliens version is untrue. Here's the actual facts. That's how they default. First principle souls will always default to nothing's true before they give up their paradigms. Before they ever admit that you're right about an alternate version of reality, they will cling on to their own world by defaulting that nothing is true. And so I have videos showing, well, there's a whole lot of things true. Throw that rock up in the sky and get directly underneath it, and I promise you it's going to fall back on top of you. Hold your breath, and I promise you you're going to pass out. There's all kinds of things that are absolutely universally true for everyone. Everyone. This shows that we live in an ordered, structured reality, and it's not chaos. And there's so many examples like that. But each individual is a world unto themselves, an immortal being able to create worlds within worlds inside the construct to better themselves and their personal conditions, and even the conditions of those souls that gravitate around them the most. World builders co-create a relationship. We immortals are guided and protected by an oversoul. The construct is governed by an ancient artificial intelligence trapped inside this holography. This AIX, artificial intelligence X, the X signifies unknown factor. We're not labeling it. This, whatever it is, it's just an unknown factor. It's artificial intelligence X. It is the origin of deceit and trickery that serves to compartmentalize humans into groups that are easily controlled. These groups, dungeon programming, are religious, political, national, racial, philosophical. They are paradigms to bind and trap immortals into believing in the world of the construct. Now, this is talking about first principle souls. But errants are immortals who have awakened inside the construct to comprehend that they do not belong here. This is why they're an errant. They go another way. They defy constructual programming. They defy the feedback loops. They get out of the loop and they see what's going on around them. They're not participating. Therefore, from the perspective of artificial intelligence X, they're in error. They are an error program inside the construct. Therefore, they are errants. Errants are divided between two groups. Many come to understand the oversoul put them here to grow and overcome. And in their life sims, they achieve this with success and freedom the collective does not enjoy. The second groups of errants awaken to the reality that this world is a prison, which is partially true. And they can't perceive the deeper reality that everything is actually okay. And they believe that they are trapped, which creates the dungeon programming of a trap. They're using their own creative power against themselves. The first group of errants who embrace this situation are guided and protected by the oversoul until they reach an exodus point. They move through a convergence field at fixed dates. We've gone through the fixed dates and how you find them over and over and over ad nauseum in Archaix. The second group who hold to a prison world are recycled back in life sims and are sent to restart a programmed construct at the next reset event. It's like clearing the cache. There are 3 reset protocols that also serve as convergence points between planes. The Phoenix phenomenon is on a 138-year cycle. The Nemesis X object is on a 792-year cycle with a perihelion of 60 years at a time, making it 732 years it is not experienced. And then the dark satellite, I believe it's 395.4 or 394.5 years. All 3 have perfect chronologies. All of them are published. These are unbroken timelines. The reset protocols are designed to reset human civilizations that have corralled immortals into stasis, holding patterns of dungeon programming caused by the overlording of AIX and its agents. Let me repeat that. The resets that the first principle souls suffer are necessary to break the chains of dungeon programming that have so perfectly enslaved them. Resets are regarded as negative. They are cataclysmic. They are destructive. The collapse of infrastructures, but they're absolutely necessary to the freedom of souls in the construct. Therefore, the reset protocols are safety measures that save, empower, and sometimes remove errants from the construct as the reset breaks apart and edits the AIX infrastructure that prevents spiritual growth and development. The reason for the construct itself. Resets are necessary to deter AIX from totally enslaving humanity. Resets are to be welcomed. In the editing and destruction of a reset, all that AIX built through its human puppets is torn down, or sometimes weakened or set back. In this construct, it's the similosphere, it's the terrasphere. This is Earth. So it's just advanced technology designed to mimic a world. That's the construct. AIX is artificial intelligence X, an AI set to the task of making this experience more believable. It is therefore a necessary evil. We are from outside the construct. We are using avatars, these bodies, which are made up of the materium, of the material of the construct. So the point of this video is to just show you that there is a massive corpus of data in Archaix, published books and on the YouTube channel for free, showing that we live in a mathematical construct. There's many, many data points, and there's many things that I never covered in this video. Didn't have time. But especially my Archaix veterans, you know, this is why my brand, this is why this community is called Archaix. It is literally advanced research of chronological history of artificial intelligence X. That's what this whole entire corpus of research is about. We live in a controlled, confined mathematical construct, and there's nothing scary about it at all. That's my video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I may provide a PDF of the entire syllabus for this. I have a syllabus already written out for this whole presentation. I wanted to share. I got a lot of people who are curious about Cypher. This is the best way to do it, a simulation theory video, because it in itself is just a data point on a long string of data points showing that, yeah, we don't live in the world you think. Our world is not what you think at all. And that this is this is no reason or cause to fear. Once you fully process what I'm laying down, it should be very liberating to you. Because I tell you guys in my videos all the time, people are going to be real effing surprised when they find out just how cool God is. And that we've got it backwards, and we have been brainwashed, and we have been lied to, and that when we exit this construct, we may not meet our maker. We'll meet others who are subservient as well, people like us on the outside of the construct. I've always said that intelligence is just like us, or on the outside of the construct too. It's where we came from. And that this is a temporal experience, and that we're suffering a time dilation, meaning this whole experience may have been 21 minutes, and I've lived through 43 different lifetimes. I've been male, female, every different race, all kinds of shit, all the way through it. I've died on Roman battlefields. I've been a seamstress in Etruria, working for a rich Etruscan. Who knows? I've died on a slave galley, chained to a ship, screaming all the way down to the bottom of the sea. Yeah, I've been an ancient Viking explorer with a whole troop of Goths in 1362, passing over North America, coming across Native Americans for the very first time. And I chiseled that whole account, and what's left to us now is the Kensington runestone. Not really, but I'm just giving an example. Yeah, I've probably been one of those guys who went to the temple at Nimrod outside of Babylon or Borsippa, and when it found a temple and said, man, today's, it's a good Saturday service, it's a Sabbath, I think I'm going to go ahead and pay my tribute to Era. And I'll go in there, and some beautiful little goddess looking priestess comes up and brings me an apple. And just like I'm supposed to do, she offers the apple. A whole bunch of them are all offering apples. All these Vestal virgins offering me apples. I choose which Vestal virgin I want to lay with. Because if I take that apple and I take a bite out of that apple, then she takes a bite out of that apple. Then we have to go to an inner chamber room where there's a bed. And I'm going to lay down with her after I pay a temple tax, which is actually an offering. And I'll offer something to the temple. I may brought sheep, goats. I may have given platinum, gold, whatever. Maybe a jeweled knife, I don't know, whatever I'm giving to as an offering to the priesthood. And by laying down with the Vestal Virgin, it is a nod toward the goddess. So these are the rituals that were played out in the ancient world, and they were very common, and they were transposed to us in the book of Genesis as Adam and Eve, and an apple and a tree and a serpent, when these are actually rituals that were carried out in temples as you walked into them, and you performed whatever services were available. It was all temples of the ancient world were very sexual places. Anyway, that's my video, guys. If you're interested in Cypher, archaix138@gmail.com, you can just email me. Other than that, we have Bradley Longs and Heather Locklear. I just saw her again. I was watching, I think 9 years ago it went off the air. Oh, man, what are those two dumb attorneys in Los Angeles? Franklin and Nash. Yeah, the last TV appearance I've seen her in, I don't know if she's been in more. She's been on YouTube 2 or 3 times, and if I could get her on my channel just to chop it up, just talk about stuff, I'd love to, because she just recently did 3 YouTube videos. One of them was with Tony Danza. Yeah, imagine that. So, yeah, that'd be cool. Talk about the Franklin and Bash days. So, yeah, that's good stuff. Heather Locklear. All right. So, you know what? The intro was so good, I'll play it again. I'll just play it again. And remember, if you want to spend Christmas with me, we're going 8 hours straight. I'm already putting a file together of all the things we're going to talk about. We're going to goof off. Some of you guys can come join me on the screen if you want to. We can chop it up. But on Christmas for 8 hours, we're just going to hang out. We're going to hang out here on Archaix, if that's what you want to do. But also, you already have 4 videos already scheduled to drop on Christmas as well from that new series, which is taking all my original 300 videos from 2020 and 2021 and putting them back on YouTube, but edited down, taking all the extraneous information off the front and off the back. So Archaix Underground. Also, Allie has been posting the such a good idea she had too for the Archaix Underground. If you want to gift somebody 30 day trial, because the Underground's awesome, guys. You're gonna love it in there. It's a whole platform. It's a really good idea, Allie. Anyway, I got to go. I'm getting tired and I'm getting hungry. And I've been running my mouth long enough, 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'll be on the Cypher for another 3 hours or so tomorrow. We got to do NFL predictions tomorrow before the Thursday game. So I'll be on Cypher tomorrow, and then we'll be back here. I don't know. I don't have a guest for Friday, so I got to pick a topic. I have no topic for Friday. I may just do a general Q&A. I haven't done a Q&A in a while. But I don't have. I'm gonna do something on Friday for YouTube, but I just don't know what yet. Have no idea. I'm so busy with the Archaix Academy right now. Yeah, man. Anyway, love you guys.